Now here's Loretta.
Country music sells heartache by the yard, but the real-life heartbreak behind the glittering stage lights is wilder than any lyric ever penned. Long before social media could blast rumors in real time, Nashville's icons were making choices that would scorch reputations and birth chart-topping songs. Tonight we're prying open the battered guitar case of history and letting every hidden flame flicker in full view. 17 forbidden romances, 3 generations of legends, and countless broken promises later, the echo of each scandal still rattles inside every honky-tonk speaker. But every melody needs tension, and every legend carries a price. These tales aren't dusty footnotes. They're the sparks that forged outlaw myths, fueled lyrics, and shaped how the world perceives country music rebellion. Stick around, because the further we travel down this whiskey-soaked highway, the darker the love stories become, and the more you'll wonder how any of these voices survived the fire. Ready? Let's tune the guitar, drop the needle, and meet the titans whose passions burned brighter than any neon sign on Lower Broadway. Hank Williams, the hillbilly Shakespeare, knew heartache as both muse and curse. In October 1952, he staged a pair of whirlwind public weddings to Billie Jean Jones, charging fans $2 a head to watch vows exchanged under stage lights. The marriage was equal parts stunt and grasp at happiness for a man whose health and sobriety were sliding into the abyss. In bars along the southeastern circuit, they fought, reconciled, then fought again, their arguments echoing over twin fiddles until Hank collapsed for good in the back seat of a powder blue Cadillac that New Year's Day. A year earlier, another prodigy, Lefty Frizzle, faced scandal when hometown sweetheart Alice Harper took him to court for child support after he skipped town chasing jukebox fame. What should have been a local embarrassment splashed across national trade papers, proving country stars could sin big enough to sell copies. Together, those two tales announced a harsh truth. Nashville royalty might wear rhinestones, but the crowns are sharp. Their downfalls set the tempo for every scandal that followed. Fast forward a generation and the Williams name was again on every gossip writer's lips. Hank Williams Jr. grew up under the shadow of a legend he could barely remember, yet the same cocktail of talent and self-destruction coursed through his veins. In the early 70s, Bocephus bounced between motel rooms and magazine covers, with a revolving door of lovers who expected outlaw romance and got something closer to barfight chaos. Reporters salivated over rumors of paternity suits and moonshine-soaked arguments, delighted by the symmetry between father and son. One night, he supposedly jumped from a second-story window to dodge an angry boyfriend. Another weekend ended with a busted jaw and a new drinking song. Fans bought every record, proving tragedy can be marketable if the guitar licks are hot enough. And just when Nashville thought scandal fatigue had set in, the man in black fell head over boots for a woman who matched his fire note for note. Their collision would rewrite gossip circles and country radio, lighting the fuse for our next chapter again. Johnny Cash met June Carter backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, and the electricity crackled louder than any amplifier. Problem was, Cash still had a wedding ring on his finger and a wife, Vivian, waiting at home with their daughters. The chemistry refused to stay buried. Tour buses became confessionals where shared faith, dark humor, and amphetamine highs braided their lives together until secrecy felt pointless. Crowds screamed for the duo's duets, blissfully unaware that every harmony was forged in guilt. Vivian finally filed for divorce after tabloids splashed June's name across the front page beside words like adultery and pill-fueled rampage. Cash proposed on stage in 1968, an act equal parts romance and public absolution, but demons don't vanish that easily. Their early marriage saw benders, canceled shows, and bruised hotel walls before June laid down a single ultimatum: sober up or lose it all. He chose love, wrote Ring of Fire, and the scandal that nearly crushed him instead became his resurrection anthem. Still, Nashville whispered that redemption never erases the original sin. If Cash's saga flirted with the edge, Jerry Lee Lewis tumbled straight into the abyss. In 1958, the rockabilly piano tornado landed in London expecting royal acclaim, but reporters uncovered that the bride traveling with him, Myra Gale Brown, was his 13-year-old cousin. Within hours, newspaper headlines screamed and concert promoters pulled the plug. Fans who once cheered Great Balls of Fire now burned his posters in the street, and DJs blacklisted every record. Back in the States, Lewis doubled down, insisting the marriage was as southern as sweet tea. But radio silence turned to empty dance halls and mounting debt. Myra, barely in high school, found herself dodging both paparazzi and math homework. The scandal shattered Jerry Lee's chart momentum for a decade and carved a cautionary epitaph into Graceland's front steps. Talent alone can't outrun moral outrage. Yet the killer refused to quit, pounding pianos in small clubs until the country charts finally forgave him, proving infamy can hibernate, but it seldom dies. Decades later, each comeback interview still had to outrun that wedding. If Lewis taught Nashville how fast a reputation could fall, Tammy, Wynette, and George Jones demonstrated how love could implode in slow motion before a paying audience. They married in 1969, uniting the First Lady of Heartbreak with the Possum, a voice so smooth it hid volcanic emotions. Behind closed doors, prescription pills and bourbon turned honeymoon lullabies into midnight shouting matches. Jones once drove a lawnmower 8 miles to buy whiskey after Wynette hid the car keys, a scene so absurd it became instant legend. By 1977, their duets dripped with real pain. Fans could hear the divorce papers rustle between verses. Then came the rumor that Wynette staged her own kidnapping to cover fresh bruises, a mystery dissected in podcasts half a century later. Even separated, they couldn't quit each other's orbit, touring together for cash and catharsis. Each shared encore felt like a truce sealed with applause, reminding listeners that some breakups never truly end, they just modulate into a sadder key. The echo of their turmoil still haunts Cheatin' songs today. Not every troubled couple divorced. Loretta Lynn and Oliver Dew. Lynn weathered 6 kids, poverty, and a catalog of infidelities that could fill its own greatest hits record. She was barely a teenager when they married. He was a moonshiner who believed bruises were just another form of punctuation. Yet Loretta transformed that pain into fire, penning songs like Fist City and You Ain't Woman Enough that swung harder than any right hook. When critics asked why she stayed, Loretta shrugged, saying the marriage gave her material fans could feel in their bones. Decades later, new documentaries replay voicemails where Dew boasts about affairs, while Loretta's laughter in the background sounds equal parts rage and resilience. Their union ended only when he passed in 1996, and at the funeral she kissed the casket and whispered, "I told you I'd outlive you." Some call it tragic loyalty, others call it survival with guitar strings attached. Either way, their saga proved queens could swing back and cash the royalty checks afterwards. Fans debate whether it was love or war. Before Merle Haggard ever stepped onto a stage, Bonnie Owens stepped into his life, leaving a marriage to Bakersfield legend Buck Owens in the rearview. She believed in Merle's baritone lilt and prison-forged lyrics enough to bankroll his early demos and sing high harmony on the classics that followed. But success breeds temptation, and Haggard's tours soon became caravans of late-night companions, coke, and neon regret. Bonnie tolerated it publicly, pouring heartbreak into the microphone each night while reporters hunted proof of betrayal. When they divorced in 1978, she kept singing with him, part penance, part paycheck, telling friends that the music mattered more than the vows ever had. Decades later, Merle admitted his biggest regret wasn't the drugs, but the way he left Bonnie standing on stage with nothing but echo. Their story warns that artistic chemistry can outlive romance, but the cost is steep. A lifetime of duets where the harmony masks a bruise the audience never sees. And when the spotlights fade, echoes are exactly what the heart replays during cold motel mornings back home. Whan Jennings and Jesse Coulter looked like the outlaw fairy tale. Black leather, desert sunsets, and harmonies that rode a steady beat. Yet beneath the cool veneer, Whalen's appetite for cocaine rivaled his appetite for studio time. He'd vanish on multi-day binges, returning wild-eyed with lyrics scribbled on motel receipts. Jesse, a gospel-trained pianist, waited with equal parts devotion and fury, sometimes pawning jewelry just to keep the lights on. The 1977 drug bust that seized Whalen's studio stash nearly shattered them. Federal agents stormed the control room while the tape rolled. Jesse's calm phone call to their lawyer bought enough time for Whalen to flush evidence, turning a certain prison stretch into a legendary song. When Whalen finally kicked the habit in the 80s, he credited two forces: music and Jesse's refusal to quit. Their marriage survived, but every anniversary carried an unwritten subtitle: Almost Lost It All. With each gruff love song he released afterward, fans could taste the powder he left behind. Their recovery proved even outlaws crave a warm home fire. When Tanya Tucker, the teenage wildfire with a voice older than the hills, fell for Glenn Campbell, Nashville gasped loud enough to rattle the Ryman windows. He was 4 decades into life. She was barely drinking age, and both loved glitter, guitars, and white powder. Their romance played out in public meltdowns, hotel rooms trashed, fistfights with telephones, on-again, off-again engagements announced from stage. Tanya once smashed Glenn's guitar on the floor. Glenn countered by recording a breakup ballad the very next morning. In 1980, a Rolling Stone cover crowned them country Sid and Nancy, and the nickname stuck. Record labels panicked as radio programmers debated whether listeners would stomach a couple seemingly allergic to stability. By 1981, it crashed hard. Rehab for him, a career stall for her, and gossip columnists who suddenly missed the drama they'd gleefully reported. Tanya clawed back with 2 Sparrows in a Hurricane. Glenn found faith and sobriety. Their implosion proved that sometimes the cure for toxic love is distance measured in years, not miles. The memory lives in legend. Willie Nelson's romances are as numerous as his guitar strings, but the wildest reveal arrived by mailbox. In 1971, his wife, singer Shirley Colley, opened a bill addressed to Mrs. Willie Nelson, only the patient listed was another woman and the charges involved childbirth. The bill turned a suspicion into proof. Willie had fathered a daughter with his lover Connie Kupke. Shirley confronted him. Willie shrugged and called it creative scheduling. The marriage unraveled. Yet out of the wreckage, Nelson wrote Bloody Mary Morning and refined the rambling persona fans still adore. When asked later if he regretted anything, he joked that honesty arrived late but paid in songwriting royalties. The child, Paula Nelson, would grow to sing beside him on stage, proof that scandal can evolve into harmony if you stretch the timeline far enough. Still, every time Willie croons about forgiveness under a cloud of blue smoke, listeners remember the envelope that blew open his private life and turned it into outlaw mythology. And yes, he kept the faded receipt pinned above his desk. Not every scandal erupted in public fireworks. Conway Twitty wore tailored suits, sang silky ballads, and projected the calm of a choir director. Privately, roadies joked that he maintained a sweetheart in every zip code and devised complicated hotel room rotations to keep encounters discreet. Biographers argue the double life fed his buttery delivery. The man knew desire from every angle. Yet the secrecy took a toll. Twitty died on tour, leaving lawyers to untangle estate questions whispered about in backstage bars for years. Charlie Rich, meanwhile, battled his demons in full spotlight glare. The Silver Fox mixed gin, jealousy, and gospel training until the cocktail exploded at the 1975 CMA Awards, where he famously lit John Denver's envelope on fire after reading the winner. Rumors swirled that Rich was drunk, angry, or both, and whispers of marital infidelity resurfaced the following morning. Within a decade, record sales plummeted, drink swallowed opportunity, and the man who once outsold Elvis faded into near myth, another cautionary verse about ego, liquor, and wandering eyes, his ashes mixed with vinyl dreams. Marty Robbins preferred racing stock cars to racing hearts, but behind the steering wheel he carried secrets that never made the liner notes. Friends whispered about motel rendezvous that preceded Sunday sermons, and some claim his 1960 hit Don't Worry was coded remorse for a nearly exposed affair. Alcohol shadowed him like a pace car, pushing the tempo until heart trouble struck in the early 80s. Robbins survived his first bypass, cut a gospel album, promised reform, then veered off course again because temptation never respected medical advice. He died at 57, leaving fans to connect the lyrical clues he'd scattered over 26 studio records. His story threads the needle between flamboyant scandal and silent erosion, reminding us that not every affair ends in headlines. Some end in hospital beeps and unfinished songs. Yet even his quieter missteps set the stage for the royalty about to walk on. Because when the rumor mill targets a queen, each hushed conversation becomes thunder, and Nashville's next dynasty was already tuning up backstage. Their entrance would escalate gossip scale. Enter Dolly Parton, a whirlwind of sequins, jokes, and shrewd business moves that masked a personal life tabloids couldn't decode. From the moment she arrived in Music City, whispers floated about affairs with collaborators, open marriage arrangements, even a secret tattoo tribute to an unnamed lover. Dolly laughed most rumors off, saying scandal sells papers faster than hair grows. Yet in 2023, a podcast claimed to locate diary pages from the 70s, hinting at a romance with a female backup singer. Rather than deny or confirm, Dolly simply replied, "Every story has a melody, honey, but not every melody is your business." The non-answer fueled more speculation than any confession could, illustrating her genius at steering attention back to her art and philanthropy. Even Porter Wagoner, whose bitter professional split with Parton once dominated headlines, admitted late in life that he never truly understood her private universe, and that, perhaps, is Dolly's greatest magic trick. In an industry addicted to confession, she turned mystery itself into platinum record sales. Rumor became currency she spent wisely. Long before podcasts dissected love lives, Patsy Cline battled rumors armed with nothing but that soaring, iron-laced voice. While juggling a fragile marriage to Charlie Dick and a grueling tour schedule, insiders alleged she sought comfort in bandmates' arms. The whispers intensified after her tragic plane crash in 1963. Without Patsy to answer, every barroom storyteller added spice. Decades later, biographers pieced together letters suggesting at least one clandestine romance, though none proved explosive enough to dim her posthumous fame. Contrast that soft enigma with the public detonation of Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton's partnership. When Dolly left Porter's TV show in 1974, lawsuits flew like drumsticks at soundcheck, and tabloids framed it as a nasty divorce without marriage papers. Porter felt betrayed. Dolly felt caged. She wrote, "I will always love you" as a gentle goodbye, but royalty checks didn't quiet Porter's bitterness for years. Together they're split, and Patsy's silent questions underline a final rule. Sometimes a rumor screamed on page one hurts less than the truth nobody can prove. Nashville hearts learn. So after 17 affairs, countless broken vows, and more chart hits than all the neon jukeboxes in Texas, what remains? A genre built on vulnerability has thrived because its architects lived without safety nets. Every scandal we explored stamped real blood on verses that might otherwise feel manufactured. Hank's tragic Cadillac ride, Cash's public proposal, Jerry Lee's cursed honeymoon, Wynette's mystery bruises, Dolly's artful evasions. Each story fed the collective myth that country music is life written in permanent marker. The decades prove that confession may spark outrage, but outrage sells tickets and eternalizes legends. Yet there's a quieter takeaway hiding beneath the tabloid ink: survival. For every marriage that exploded, another song rose from the ashes, and generations of fans found solace in melodies forged from wounds they recognized. The scandals didn't break country music, they truly tuned it. So next time a pedal steel cries through a midnight chorus, remember the hearts that paid for that bend in full and ask yourself, Would the song hit half as hard without the sin that birthed it? If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.